somewhere in the dark terrain of northeastern Nigeria. Just past midnight on May 16, 2026, U.S. and Nigerian forces moved toward a fortified compound in Metele, Borno State. The man inside had spent years believing he was untouchable. He had survived a wrongful death report in 2024. He oversaw the finances, the hostage operations, and the attack planning for the most active terrorist network on the planet right now. His name was Abu Bilal Al-Minuki, and in 3 hours, he would be dead. What nobody knew at the time was that American intelligence had spent months building a surveillance architecture around one of the world's most remote terror sanctuaries. Al-Minuki believed the Lake Chad Basin was his protection. It turned out to be his cage. Mainok, Borno State, 1982. A town deep inside Nigeria's insurgency heartland, where jihadist networks had been recruiting for decades before Washington paid attention. Al-Minuki grew up there, eventually entering the orbit of Boko Haram, the militant group that has terrorized the Lake Chad Basin since 2009. He was not a fringe recruit. He was a strategist and eventually an architect. When Boko Haram fractured in 2016, Al-Minuki sided with the breakaway faction that pledged loyalty to ISIS. The Islamic State West Africa province, known as ISWAP, was born from that split. He didn't just join it, he helped build its financial spine. According to a joint statement from the Nigerian military and AFRICOM, he oversaw hostage-taking, coordinated weapons manufacturing and drone development, and ran the media operations that spread the group's reach across the Sahel. He also dispatched fighters to Libya independently of Boko Haram's then leader, directly defying rival militant authority. That episode told intelligence analysts something important. This man operated with his own initiative, not just orders from above. By the time the U.S. Treasury formally sanctioned him in June 2023, Al-Minuki had risen to what AFRICOM described as the head of ISIS's General Directorate of States, the body that oversees the group's international branches. He was the connective tissue between ISWAP's field operations and ISIS's global command structure, not a fighter. The pipeline through which money moved, orders flowed, and strategy was coordinated across multiple continents. And here's the detail that everyone missed at the time. He had already been declared dead once. In 2024, the Nigerian military reported a commander with a similar name killed in Kaduna State. It was a misattribution, later described by official spokespeople as a case of mistaken identity in the fog of sustained counterinsurgency operations. Al-Minuki read that report from his fortified enclave in Borno, and he stayed right where he was. Here is a number that reframes this entire story. In the first quarter of 2026, 86% of all ISIS attacks globally occurred in Africa. Not Syria, not Iraq, not the territory where the group was born. Africa. That figure stood at 49% for all of 2024. The shift was accelerating, quarter by quarter.
That the terrorists targeted were ISIS-affiliated jihadists who had infiltrated Nigeria from the Sahel using forested hideouts as operational bases for future attacks.
According to ACLED, the Global Conflict Monitor, ISIS activity had hit a record high by the time this operation was launched. And within Africa, ISWAP was the engine. ISIS's own weekly publication, Al-Naba, ranked ISWAP first among all global ISIS provinces for attacks claimed between July 2024 and July 2025. 445 attacks, 1,552 casualties from one regional branch in 1 year. And somehow, it gets worse. ISWAP had built what analysts at SBM Intelligence call a ransom economy. Between July 2024 and June 2025, the group extracted approximately $1.66 million in kidnapping ransom from northern Nigeria alone. Hostages were not an afterthought. They were a revenue stream. Al-Minuki oversaw it. The path to Metele started in Syria. On December 13, 2025, an ISIS ambush in Palmyra killed 2 U.S. service members and an American interpreter. Washington responded with what officials called Operation Hawkeye Strike, a directive to sustain relentless military pressure on ISIS's global network. That directive translated into something specific for West Africa, and it moved fast. On Christmas Day 2025, U.S. and Nigerian forces struck ISIS-linked targets in Sokoto State, northwestern Nigeria. Multiple militants killed, a signal sent. But Al-Minuki was not there. In February 2026, approximately 200 U.S. troops deployed to Nigeria in a training and advisory capacity. In March, MQ-9 Reaper drones began operating over the northeast. Persistent overhead surveillance, invisible from the ground, tracking movement patterns in the Lake Chad Basin day after day. The Nigerian army later confirmed it. Al-Minuki had been under surveillance for some time before the strike. When he was located in Metele, both governments concluded the window had opened. The clock was already ticking. Al-Minuki just couldn't hear it yet. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. This channel covers operations like this one before the analysis version reaches mainstream coverage. Hit subscribe and you won't miss the next one. By May 2026, the intelligence picture was complete. Al-Minuki had established what Nigerian military spokesman Sani Uba officially described as a concealed and fortified enclave inside a remote Borno State village. He believed the terrain made him unreachable. The area sits inside the Lake Chad Basin, a region straddling Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, 17 years deep into an insurgency that has killed over 35,000 people and displaced 2 million more. Anyone trying to reach him would have to fight through it. The operation launched just after midnight. US and Nigerian forces executed what the Nigerian army called a highly complex precision air-land operation. Ground units moved, air assets overhead. The operation ran from just after midnight through 4 a.m. local time, 3 hours of darkness. When it ended, not a single US or Nigerian soldier had been killed. Not a single asset was lost. Al-Minuki was confirmed dead. Multiple ISIS lieutenants alongside him. AFRICOM Commander General Dagvin Anderson confirmed it in an official statement Saturday morning, noting that the operation had eliminated Al-Minuki and other senior ISIS leaders. The Nigerian task force spokesperson called it the single most consequential counterterrorism outcome in the region since the inception of operations in 2015. I mean, think about that for a second. 11 years of operations in that region, and this was the highest value result ever recorded. And now the harder question, the one that comes after the strike footage fades. ISWAP has buried senior commanders before. When Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau died in 2021, there were celebrations and declarations of strategic victory. ISWAP expanded. When various regional ISWAP commanders fell to Nigerian airstrikes in prior years, the organization reconstituted within months. Leadership decapitation disrupts operations in the short term. History shows it rarely dismantles the group. Analyst Cheta Nwanze at SBM Intelligence stated plainly within hours of the announcement, "Until the economic logic that feeds these groups is disrupted, the cycle will continue." The ransom economy, the recruitment pipeline from marginalized Lake Chad Basin communities, the 17-year-old governance gap that created ISWAP's original opening. None of those ended at 4 a.m. in Metele. Pay attention to this next detail because it explains everything. 1 week before the Metele strike, ISWAP fighters killed 17 police officers in a raid on a special training center in Yobe State. That attack happened on May 8th, 2026. The group was not standing still waiting for its leadership to recover. As of May 17th, 2026, Al-Minuki is confirmed dead. Multiple ISIS leaders eliminated alongside him. US and Nigerian forces continue to operate in the region under an active and expanding counterterrorism partnership. This story isn't over, not even close.